This is Jerry with Jerry's Retirement Wisdom. Today, we're not talking hacks. What we are talking is knots. What we're going to be covering today is the 3 most useful knots for tying braided line to your lure. Why don't you come along? Before we talk about the 3 best knots for braid, let's talk about the knot that you don't want to use. And today what I'm going to do is each time we talk about a knot, I'm going to demonstrate with some paracord and this really big hook, and then we'll try it again with 20-pound braid and a more normal size hook. So first off, the knot I'm talking about is a clinch knot. It's a real common knot for tying a hook to your fishing line, and basically you go through the eye of the hook, then you grab it right about here and you make about 5 twists of the line around the main line. Then you bring this end back through the loop that you made when you started out, and then you just tighten that down. That's the clinch knot. Okay, now I'm going to tie one on our regular size hook and show you why you don't want that for braid. So we'll take our 20-pound test braid. We'll do the same thing we did with the other. We're going to feed the line through this hook, give ourselves a little slack. Then I'm going to hold where it comes through the hook right here, and we're going to twist this 5 times. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5th time. Then just like we did with the paracord, I'm going to bring this end back through the loop. And that's our clinch knot. Now we just pull it down tight. And I've got a bolt here on my workbench. And I'm going to hook that hook right over that bolt, and I'm just going to wrap this braided line up and give it a hard pull, and look what's happening. That clinch knot just pulls right out. So that's why the traditional clinch knot isn't the knot we want to go with. For the first of the 3 best knots for braid, what we need to tie, and one of the strongest and most popular knots for braid, is called a Palamar knot. And the way you tie that is you make a loop in your line, pass that loop through the eye of your hook, then we're just going to tie an overhand knot with that looped end, and then you pass the loop over the lure that you're tying on, in this case the hook. Then all we do is pull the main line first till it's tight, and then pull your tag end and tighten it down, and then we'll clip off this tag end. That's a Palamar knot. So let's do that here with our small piece. So we take our hook, we bend our line double, we pass the loop that we've made by doubling our line, pass that through the eye of the hook, then you just tie an overhand knot, passing it back through there, and then take the loop. We're going to open it up and run our lure back through that loop that we initially passed through the eye of the hook. Now we pull the main line tight and pull your tag in tight. There's our knot. And then all we have to do is cut off our tag end. And we've got our Palamar knot. I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to do just like I did with the other knot. I'm going to grab that braided line and I'm going to give it a pull, and you can see I'm cutting into my fingers and that knot's not coming loose. That's why it is so popular with braided line. That knot's not going to give. Okay, lots of test, no give. So that's the first best knot for braided line, and that's called the Palamar knot. Now, to give yourself an extra little bit of protection from coming loose, I like to use crazy glue when I tie my knots. And what you do is you put a little dab of that crazy glue on there. This knot's already extremely strong, but that extra bit of crazy glue might give you 1 or 2% more strength. So it's worth doing it. Add a little crazy glue. Especially early in the morning, I like to use different kinds of topwater lures, crankbaits, repellas, that sort of thing. And one of the things you run into when you're using these baits is they come with an O-ring on the nose, or sometimes they have a snap ring of some sort. And I don't particularly like that, because I think that O-ring right there is your weakest point when you're fishing with these kind of lures. So what I like to do is I like to remove the O-ring off of my lure and tie my braided line right to the nose of the crankbait or topwater lure that I'm using. And braided line's really sensitive. You can really feel the strike. You can watch your line because it tends to float out over the top of the water. So I got my little lure buddy here so I can demonstrate what this knot is called. It's a loop knot with a uni knot. It's kind of a combination. So the first thing we want to do is take our line and just tie a loop in it. Just like that. And we want to give ourselves plenty of slack. Okay? We're going to run our end through our lure. And then we're going to run that line back through that loop knot that we made. Just like that. Now why this works really good is when you leave a loop in front of your lure, it lets that lure be more active and a lot of action. You pull that down tight, it kind of makes the lure more rigid and you don't get the action out of it. So you want to tie a knot with a bit that leaves a loop at the end of the day so that your lure can really produce some action. Now you come up the main line right here from the lure that we have looped to, and we're going to take this tag end around and make a loop over the main line. And this is a uni knot. You just go around the inside of that loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times for heavy line. You go up to 9 times for the lighter stuff. Okay? Now we're just going to take that knot and pull it tight. And look how that loop and that uni knot come together. And that makes a loop up here in the front. It makes a strong knot that tightens itself up right there at that loop, and it's not going anywhere. Okay, and let's demonstrate that using the actual hook and the regular lure. We just tie a loop in our line, just like that. Then we're going to run the other end through the nose of our lure. Okay. And now you run that right back through the loop that we started with. Okay. Then tighten that up a bit. Pull it down right there close to the nose of our lure. And we're going to make a uni knot. And you'll recall you just bring everything around the main line. And then we're going to come inside once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. This is a heavier line a little bit, make it 6 times. You can go up to 9 times if you're using really light stuff. Now watch this knot come together. Let's pull this. We'll just trim off our tag end, and there you have it. That's a loop knot with a uni knot. And that's going to let that lure move around as we fish with it. And you're going to get some really good action. One of the most popular ways to use braid, and the way I use it a lot, is I fill my reel with braid. Then I just attach either a fluorocarbon or a mono leader to that braided line. And that way when the fish comes up close to the lure, it's not seeing that braid as easily as it might. Most all of my reels have braided line on it, and then I'm using some sort of a leader that's made from fluorocarbon. So to demonstrate how to put those together, there's all kind of knots that you hear about, but one of the most useful and the most common ways to hook braid to fluorocarbon is what they call a double uni knot. Once it's tied, you can add a little bit of your crazy glue, and it's going to slip easily through the eyes on your fishing pole. First thing you do is lay your lines parallel to each other with the tag ends facing different directions. And remember, this is going to be our braided line here. So once you give yourself plenty of slack, grab those two and hold them together in the middle. Then take your braided line and you make a loop that comes back over both your main line and the fluorocarbon line. And we go inside that loop and you make a uni knot, which is 1 time around, 2 times around, 3, 4. You can go 5 times when it's heavy line. You can go up to 9 times sometimes when you're using lighter line. And just cinch that down there. Kind of tight, doesn't have to be 100% yet. Now, to do this, I like to just turn everything around. So I'll just reverse my lines. Now I've got a hold of it here in the middle. Now I'm going to take my fluorocarbon line and I'm going to do exactly the same thing I just did with my braided line. I'll make a loop. And then I'm going to go inside that loop and around the main line as well as the fluorocarbon line. I'm going to put these loops through here. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. Okay. And then we'll tighten that down. Now we can take both of the main lines and give this whole thing a tighten. And look how your knots come right together. Those 2 uni knots pull together, and that's how you're going to combine your fluorocarbon and your braided line. Now all you have to do is trim off your tag ends, and you've got a nice knot holding both of those types of line together. Let's do it with the regular lines now. Okay, I've got my fluorocarbon leader and I've got my braided line, and lay them out parallel to each other with the tag ends facing opposite directions. Grab a hold of that right in the middle. And the first thing I'm going to do is take my braided line, make that loop, clench it, and then I'm going to go inside of my loop a number of times. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've gone 5 times around the inside of my braided line loop that I made. And now I'm just going to pull that down tight. Okay. Now, like I said, I like to turn things around. That way I'm repeating the same thing. So I've got my fluorocarbon now. I'm going to make a loop with the fluorocarbon over the braided line and my fluorocarbon main line. Go through here once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, my 5th time. Now I've brought my fluorocarbon through the loop 5 times. I'm just going to pull it down. You might want to wet it. That'll help. Pull that down tight. Now, with both of them pulled down close, take the main lines and pull everything together. Now watch how those 2 knots come right together. And that's a good tight knot there. Now all we need to do is take our scissors and cut loose our tag ends. Same thing here with the braid. And there you have it. You've got the double uni knot ready to slip through the eyelets of your fishing pole and hold that braid and leader strong.
This has been Jerry with Jerry's Retirement Wisdom. I hope you've learned a little bit today about tying braid onto your lures.
Maybe there's a few tricks that you can take with you on your next fishing trip. If you like my videos, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you'd like to see some more of my videos, just click right there. We'll see you next time.